That's Louise Byrne reporting. Well, Sinead Ryan, why are energy bills so high when wholesale prices are coming down? Is there any explanation for it?
Fran, there really isn't. I mean, we are the third highest priced for electricity in Europe. Householders in Europe, in Ireland, are paying €550 a year on average more than our European counterparts. And really, it is just unacceptable. There isn't a good reason for it. Yes, we're an island nation, but we always were. You know, it's difficult to get network and distribution. It always was. We weren't always this high. So I don't actually buy a lot of the arguments that they shouldn't come down. The purest price that you'll see on fuel is at the petrol pumps, okay? And we've seen that revert right back down now to where it was last year. Now, why is it so hard to follow that through with other prices that we have? There is an issue with the amount of fossil fuels we use. Only about 30% is on renewables, and that's despite all the ads.
But that point that Maura Lynch made there, that renewables are costing far too much. Is there an explanation for that?
It's absolutely bonkers, because when you're dealing with what we were told was the solution to this, the wind power and the solar panels and all that, the amount of electricity it takes to run them and generate them, you know, there's a huge cost attached to that. This push on electric cars, guess what? They need to be charged at electric charge points, and we just don't have enough on renewables to do that. Far too much still reliance on fossil fuels. But even aside from that, you cannot lose sight of the fact that there is price watching going on across this industry in the same way there are with supermarkets and insurance and every other industry. If they're charging it, I'm charging it. That's the problem.
Speaking of bonkers, David Kerr, some of the suppliers said to us tonight that, you know, the cost of wholesale energy is still much higher than it was pre this crisis hitting. And they outline how they have put purchasing protection. They've helped insofar as they can by forward purchasing power for the benefit of consumers. Does that hold water?
It does to a certain degree, and the ones that are probably saying that the most are the ones that generate electricity through natural resources, the wind farms. And the reason for that is because the wind farms charge the same amount to the network grid as if the electricity had been generated through natural gas, which have the highest price, obviously. So if the wind turbines are being paid the same amount as the gas turbines, they're making massive profits. And we've seen that in the reports this year alone from the likes of VSB Group, for example, that have delivered supernormal profits from the generation side, and yet have delivered a zero profit through subsidy to their customers on the Electric Ireland retail side.
Let's focus on those customers. So your business is price comparison. So beyond electricity and gas and other things, what are the things that consumers are saying to you they're struggling with or they're having difficulty with?
So the three largest components to any household's budget is their mortgage cost, it's their grocery cost, and it's their energy cost. We've already talked about the energy side. On the mortgage side, we've seen another quarter point increase today from the ECB. That's passed straight away to any trackage holders. But surprisingly, we're the third highest price in Europe for electricity. We're the third lowest price in Europe for variable rate mortgages. And that's pretty peculiar. Those rates will come up. And in fact, fixed rate mortgages last year, just 12 months ago, were significantly lower than they are now. And that means that people who are looking to refinance their mortgage, those good rates have gone away now. And it's the first time buyers that are having to bear the brunt of the price increases, even though they're getting reasonably good rates.
Just on those increases, the kind of things people are seeing, what can you practically do if you're facing electricity bills, home insurance, car insurance, many of which are going up? What can people practically do?
Yeah, so what we say to people is they need to take back control of their household bills and their expenditure. And the way they can do that the most effectively is to shop around. It's an old story, but it's still the best story. When you get your car insurance renewal, for example, you can look at that price and say, that is the most I will pay. It's now my job to shop around and to see what I can do to make that lower. And make sure, of course, that you don't get a reduced amount of coverage, but it's the same for your car insurance, for your home insurance, and also, yeah, for your grocery, which we've been doing a great job at in terms of embracing the multiples from the German side.
You were telling us earlier, Sinead, about smart meters. Now, a lot of people got spooked by smart meters and thought, if I'm on the wrong tariff, I'll be robbed blind. You have seen a benefit to it.
Huge benefit. I was offered the rollout. It's free of charge. Every home is going to get one. It's about 1 million done. And it's fantastic. So it takes about 15 minutes. And what it does is give you real-time information about your usage across energy. electricity mainly. And there's a lovely breakdown, if you're kind of a bit nerdy like me, and you can go in and look at it, what appliances are using what, and how do you compare it to the national average and other homes like yours. So it's a good marker, and it's a bit like David said, gives you that sense of control. Am I way out of kilter here, or is everybody the same? I found from my case, I thought it was going to be things like the dreaded immersion that was going to cost so much, but in fact it was what they called the vampire usage. So this is the stuff, the plugs that you leave on standby at night because you can't be bothered to plug out the television and the kettle and the toaster and all that kind of thing when you're going to bed. It uses up a huge amount of power.
And you saving money because of that now?
Yes, definitely. I've got rid of the tumble dryer. We just got rid of it. It cost an absolute fortune. Now, I'm lucky enough, I don't have 4 kids under 10. I have to get uniforms ready for every day, so it's not going to be for everybody. Got rid of that. Got the air fryer. So air fryer, microwave, it's a fraction of the price of sticking the oven on the whole time. Small things like changing the light bulbs. I mean, it just sounds so silly, but even the things like getting, the sausages to put at the bottom of the door, the draft excluders,
yes,
it can make a huge difference because you're just simply not using as much. You can't change the price, but we can change how much we use.
Just before we go, we have to wrap up. I want to talk about mortgages because we've seen that increase that David referenced. Is the era of zero rate mortgages over?
Oh, undoubtedly. It should have been over long before now. And I think that was the issue. Because the last 6 or 7 years that we've seen of historically low rates, that was the blip. Normal mortgage interest rates are between 4 and 5% or 3 and 5%. That's the way they should be. So they are kind of in a resetting phase at the moment now. It's been very sharp over a very short period of time and nobody's happy about it. But the reason that the banks have been reluctant to put up the rates, it's not out of any charitable reason, it never was, it's because the depositors are getting stuffed. So the banks have 140 billion on deposit, they're sticking it with the ECB, they're getting 3.5% interest. They're not passing that on to deposit, people saving for their first deposit or elderly people with their pensions in there. Not a chance.
David, just very, very briefly, given that rates are unlikely to go down anytime soon, what should people who are looking at a rising mortgage do now?
Make sure they get the best rate possible for their current circumstances. Make sure that they can refinance, for example, if they have more equity in their home, they can get a better rate just by the fact that they own more of it themselves. Make sure they don't pay too much on their life insurance attached to that mortgage. Most people actually are paying double what they should be paying, and they can change that very quickly.
OK, David, Sinead, thank you both for coming in, and thank you both for trying to save us a few quid in these times.